In this video, I'm going to go over how you can create your own AI legal assistant so you can search through hundreds of pages of legal documents to get answers and instant responses. This isn't going to be a full start to finish project. I mainly want to focus on how you can create your legal document database and set it up in a searchable way. And then when you search it, you'll get, say, the top 5 or 6 responses, provide that to the AI, and the AI will write a response based on the information that it found from the documentation. But before I get too deep into that, I'll just show you this little demo I've got here so you can see how it works. And for this, we're going to be using the Residential Tenancies and Rooming Act 2008. And I'll just ask a quick couple questions. On what grounds can a lease be terminated? Now, the way I've set this up is the first half of this will be a response that the AI has written from those 5 or 6 closest match resources to my question. And then down here, it's providing resource links to where it got the information from. So, as you can see here, on what grounds can a lease be terminated? It can and then reference links. Section 335, application for termination orders, agreements, termination for excessive hardship, So you got a few different pages here, and the way I've set this up is I've done it so I have this URL to the document that's been hosted online, and I can actually just change the numbers here. So whatever resource I'm getting back, I also have the page numbers recorded, and I can just click on that. And as you can see, it goes straight to the right page. Now, this is offset a little bit. So here it's got 291 page. It's got 293 up here, and that's just because these are offset by 2. But let's give this one more question. What happens when a landlord dies? So when a landlord dies, Resident Tenancy Act, LI specific, continuation of tenancy, tenant's rights, notice of termination, ending agreement, etc., etc. And once again, resource links. So I'm pretty sure this chat had the top 6 the top 6 matches will be provided to the AI assistant to write a response, and then it's only providing links to the top, say, 1, 2, or 3 resources that had the most relevant information. And I'll give that one more click just to show you guys. And here, so actually, let's just have another look at this. Chapter 3, Rights and Obligations, Section 224. Rights, responsibilities, sections, 244, 242, and 244. So that was slightly off. So I found an error in this because this number is actually this number, but it should actually be 213, as this has not been offset. Minor error, but you guys get the idea. But how do I create this, or how do I create the database that I can search and get these responses back from? Because also, note this document is 500 pages or almost 500 pages. So it's a lot of stuff to get through. So how do we do this? And to set this up, if you've seen the last video I created, I basically talked about setting up your vector embeddings and structuring your vector database in a way that basically captures the hierarchical structure of the document, or say the table of contents. So if I come here, you can see that you have chapter, part, division, subdivision, sections, all these different things. And what we want to do is take the PDF like this and turn it into a CSV format like this. So I got chapter, chapter num, part title, part num, etc., all the way down to these text sections. So if I go back to here, go down to random thing. So this will be its own text section. But then it will also include chapter 7, authorized persons, because you got enforcement, authorized persons under this chapter. That's probably not the best example of one of these. Let's try another one. Powers of authorized persons for places. Entry to places, warrants for entry. So you can see that this little bit of text will provide extra context to what's actually going on in each section. And that's why we want to organize our CSV into this format. But how do we do it? Now, don't be intimidated by this. It's, I'll be honest, pretty messy, because I didn't think I'd be revisiting it. Because basically, once you've done this once, I don't really need to use this again. But thought it would be worth explaining to you how I actually do all this. So I've got these all in order, and really this could all just be one thing of code, but I'll just leave it out like this so you guys can kind of see my process of going through this. Now the goal is to turn it from a PDF into a CSV. And there's nothing stopping you going straight from PDF to CSV. But what I've done first is I've converted it to a markdown file. So if I go to this file here, instead of having this, I've converted it to markdown. And the reason is just so it's easier to deal with. So you can easily go to ChatGPT or Claude and do write me a code that converts PDF to markdown. And you will need a code editor, like I'm using Cursor at the moment, but you can use VS Code, which is free. You can download it, and it's pretty easy to run this type of code in it. But basically, the first one is you want to change it to markdown, but it's not going to identify these things. So see how I've highlighted, chapter, part, division, subdivision, etc. Basically, what you want to also do is come into here and let's say highlight something like this, and also, actually, I might. All right, so I just wrote a little thing here, and basically you want to convert it to markdown and use regex to identify any key things or key elements that you want to be able to grab. So I'll run this second bit just so I can show you guys what the regex looks like. But also notice that there's different fonts for different things. So you can also add other things being in, like, oh, this must also be bold, or it is a H1 or H2 element. So you're using basically regex and font sizes and asking AI to write you some sort of code or that can pluck out those elements and then highlight them when the application is converted to Markdown. So as you can see here, I've plucked out these elements and highlighted them and turned this into the the Markdown raw text style file. So if I look in here, actually, just so you guys can see what these regex patterns look like. So it can either be chapter, part, division, subdivision, and all this is to identify thingo. What else? This is probably a better example here. So you don't fully need to understand this, just understand you're trying to get AI to write you this so it can pluck out those details. And there is a bit of trial and error with this because all PDFs, like, they'll have slightly different formats and identify some things easier than others. So for example, over in my little adjust headings here, basically there was a problem with selecting these, some of these titles. So here, Division 2, meaning of key terms and residential tendencies. So see, it missed this last word, and I'm pretty sure that's just because I told it to only grab everything on that first line. So I had to do a little correction there. But then, so you're not going to get this right first go. And basically, you know, you're trying to pluck out all these things and then you have it in this format so you can go through and easily see, all right, I've got all this, I've got all that. But then there's going to be other little things that you're going to want to remove as well. So you're basically just converting it to Markdown so it's easier to work with, if that makes sense. And so there's elements I want to pluck out, but then also there's elements I don't want in there. So I have this Residencies and Rooming Accommodation Act, which is at the top of every page, and including the section or S, whatever. Then at the bottom of each page, I also have this authorized by Parliamentary Council. And so I want to remove all that, and I want to get the page number, but I also don't want to include it in my text CSV. So if I come here, you can see this is the original one that I generated, and every time I run one of these codes, it just generates me a new one of these. So at the moment it goes original to filter, which I'm pretty sure this is meant to, oh no, sorry, adjust headings. Filter gets rid of the start and end. So I think if I go, I think this gap is where a page ends. And if I come back to this one, section 1, 2, 3. Oh, see here, section 1, 2, 3. So now I don't have that additional text in between my pages. Then when I've done the adjust headings, I've come down here and you can see, if I can find an example, where's the one I was showing you before? Basically, if I come down, Division 2, meaning and terms and tenancy is missing. I come here, Division 2, meaning and terms and has been re-added. So there's a little bit of trial and error. There's no cookie cutter for these, but basically, like I keep saying, you're just trying to pluck out the things you need. And then once you're happy with everything and you think you've remove the things you need to remove, and you've highlighted the things that you need to be able to grab. Then you can write something that, like here, that converts the markdown into a CSV, which will look like this. This is a normal CSV. It's just got this format because I'm in a code editor. Let's delete that. And now you can see that each row has all the headings and the additional text. So some of these will be quite short, and then some of these will be quite long. But one other thing to look out for, because like I was saying, it's not a cookie cutter sort of application, and there's always little things you got to keep an eye out for. So everything I've said so far about, using font sizes and regex to pluck out elements you need, and then also using regex to remove or filter out any things that you don't want, and then doing any little tidy up edits, then converting to the CSV. And this all worked pretty well, but one thing I did run into is, you think these legal documents would be pretty on to having the I's dotted and T's crossed, but all these numbers here are all sections that don't actually exist in this document. So my code for this, when I was converting it, all runs perfectly, but then as soon as I hit any of these numbers, it stopped working. So I basically had to keep running the code and then run it again every time I hit one of these. And with 500 pages, which is however many sections this is, which I think there's probably 4 or 5 sections per page, it can be a little bit of a tedious process to make sure you find all these little things. But that's how you convert PDFs to this CSV structure. And actually, I didn't mention page numbers. So up here, I've got all the sections I need except page numbers, because I removed the page numbers to get just the raw text. And then I had another extract page, which I'm literally just using regex to get the page numbers, and I'm creating another CSV here, which I could probably just merge with the first one, but because all of these numbers are in order, I can basically copy and paste this and create just a new row, because I have, where is it, section. So you can see that all these section numbers are in order here, and if I go here, all these section numbers are in order, and as you can see, I've got 3 sections on page 1, 2 sections of page 2. So that's quite easy to add in. Now, just before I go, I'll just quickly show you. So this is the exact same CSV, just outside of the code editor. And as you can see, it's all this information. And now what I'll do to turn this into an AI chat is I would upload it to Supabase, and then I would create another row, which would just be for embedded content. And I would arrange all of these into, say, a hierarchical structure and append them to the top of each section, so that when the search happens, it's going to have the context of all these titles or different sections: tenancy agreements, agreements, key deposit, miscellaneous, rental bond account, etc., etc. Which again, I'll show you how this looks in Supabase real quick. So that's basically all that. So if I click on there, that's a website one. Actually, I'll just find RTA Act, content hierarchy. So then I've got all of these in order. It's probably not set up the best. I kind of like using these little arrows and doing it this way. And then what I'll do is I'll append this to the start of the content. So embedded content. As you can see, I've got this hierarchy at the start like that. and then the content afterwards. Also note when you are creating these, because you usually do the chunk overlap with these rows, I'd still recommend doing the chunk overlap, but not between these rows. Basically, some of these rows, see like here, that can be its own chunk. This one can be its own chunk, but then some of them are obviously going to be quite long, and I would chunk any of these that are a bit longer at about 1,000 characters. I'd say, if a chunk got to 1,200 characters or more, maybe I'd cut it in half and then make it 2 chunks and append the hierarchy to the start of each one of them, just to keep it a bit tidier. But I won't go into detail on fully setting up the chats and this, that, the other. If you want to know how you can set up these AI chats or link this database from Supabase and generate embeddings and stuff like that, I'll link another video below or maybe on the screen somewhere, and that'll walk you through how to set up these databases and chats. I mainly just wanted to focus on how to structure these databases to get the best results. And if you want to know more about embeddings and why I structure these databases like this, I'll add another link down below to a video that talks about that. And again, if you enjoyed this video, help us out, hit that like button. And I've got a free resource hub on School, which I'll throw down below as well, and any other little resources that I think might help you with this stuff. But I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time.